Okay, so that's the first verse. The chorus is okay. Okay, nice. Let me get. Okay, okay. Oh, sorry, I didn't see you guys there. Oh. I'm such a sellout, man. I'm such a sellout. What is going on, guys? This is obviously your boy Jordan here, back again with another video, and boy does it feel good to finally say that. I haven't recorded a video in like a month. You know, I took a little sabbatical, but I'm back, and we got a lot of things planned. So let's get into it. So I put out a video, what, 6 months ago, if not longer, maybe even a year ago, called "Why I'm Leaving Android," like why I'm moving to iOS. And I spent the last 6 to 12 months or so sitting down thinking, you know, what's going on. You know, Android's getting better, iOS is getting better. We have so much more tech and from the hardware side of things. These, voice assistants, AirPods, watches, laptops are getting better. There's so much stuff going on, and I just couldn't decide which park I wanted to be in. So I spent the last few months just like thinking about it, getting to grips with this Android phone and this, if I can reach it, this iPhone. I've been using them both here and there, doing my little, I mean, obviously I'm not a tech review channel, but doing my little reviews. And after, a sustained period of time, I finally come to half of a conclusion. And today I'm going to talk about why I might end up ultimately just sticking, with this bad boy, Android. Yeah, let's get it. So the number one thing of why I'm sticking to Android, I was thinking in my head, should I just script this in a way that goes like to get more and more, easy to recommend or something? But I'm going to start with the number one thing, because it's something that is so important, and something that I haven't really thought about much, but kind of came into the spotlight over the last 12 months or so, and that is this right here, this Google Assistant. This is a Google Home Mini. Eventually I will get a bigger one, but the whole, I mean, I mentioned the Apple ecosystem on the other, on the other side of the coin. You have like the Apple Watch, the MacBooks, and everything that kind of works well together. Google Assistant is like so good, so ridiculous, and it's something that, even though I haven't really benefited from it much now, I'm a student household. I know that in the future, when I do get my own flat or my apartment or my house, I want to have more of these around, and that's something that is really keeping me on the Android side. There are obviously a bunch of other reasons that I'm going to go into after this one, but this little £50, no, £25 whatever device has made everything so difficult for me, and let me explain. So obviously I'm not going to go into the depths of like how good the assistants are. I'm not like a tech reviewer by no means, but if anyone who actually uses these voice assistants, you obviously appreciate how powerful they are. I've never really been much, like I don't walk around and like talk to my phone, how was your day or whatever, but there are certain things that I just can't help but use. For example, Google Calendar, I use that a lot. If I get like an email that says, I got a meeting at 1 o'clock, I'll just say, hey assistant, put a meeting on my calendar for this time. And the biggest thing, actually, the biggest thing that I haven't mentioned yet, has to be music for me. It's by far music, and I'm always, if I'm like doing dishes, it's like, hey assistant, play this. If I'm in the shower, it's like, hey assistant, play this. I'm always listening to music in my house, and again, it's something that I'm going to carry on forward when I get my own flat in the future, in my own house, whatever in the future, and I can only see myself doing it through a Google Assistant. And even so, like one thing I've noticed is Spotify. Like you have to pick which service you use. You don't have to. Like, it defaults to one or the other, but you can just say, play this on Apple, on YouTube Music, or on Spotify. But one thing that I've noticed is that some of the songs that I play on a regular, I used to like download songs legally, of course. I used to download songs, and a lot of those songs that you get on like SoundCloud or downloaded or on YouTube aren't on Spotify. And that's made it difficult recently when I tried to like, I've recently, I think Bryson Tiller uploaded Just Another Interlude into Spotify. So I was like, I don't even need SoundCloud anymore. A bunch of other artists put all their old tracks on it. Persian Rugs, Party Next Door, Shouts and Party Next Door. All these old tracks were recently added to Spotify, and I was like, I only really have SoundCloud now for like a handful of songs. I don't really need it, so I uninstalled it. iTunes got really bad, so I was like, you know what, I don't really care about half of these songs anymore. I just deleted it off my laptop. And I'm at a point now where a lot of the songs that I don't listen, well, I listen to them here and there, But there's a lot of stuff that just aren't on Spotify that I'd really appreciate having. So I'm like, you know what? At some point in time, I'm probably going to get YouTube Music and just get rid of Spotify entirely. You know, I can get all the same songs and more. Plus, I can get rid of all these damn ads online. I've noticed like ad blocker just doesn't work as well anymore. I think they're like refining the algorithms and stuff to combat ad blocker. Even a lot of like news sites. I like to do a lot of reading in the morning. A lot of these sites are like, if you don't deactivate ad block, I'm not going to show you this thing. So it's like, you know what, let me just get the YouTube Music, YouTube Premium, sorry, and then get rid of all these ads entirely and get all the songs I want. I'm not going to do it now because I don't, you know, most of what I want is on Spotify anyway. But in the future, you know, at some point in time, I can see myself getting that and just being even more embedded into the you know, the Google, the Android space. And the whole general value of Google Assistant, even outside the music, you know, being able to book things, update my calendar, text this person, call that person. When I'm driving now, like, obviously I've never been overly irresponsible while driving, but I'm not gonna lie, if I might stop at a red light, maybe here and there, I might turn the engine off, you know, respond to a text message. But it's not safe to do that. It's not safe to do that. And it's like I'm trying to get more and more embedded into the assistant because it's just a lot easier. And that's again another thing that's keeping me stuck on Google on Android. I appreciate, yes, that Siri does exist, but having tried using this, it's so bad. It's so bad. It's improved a lot. You know, no offense to Siri, she's improved a lot over the years, or over the year that I've had this phone. But it's just nowhere near as good as Google Assistant. I'm not even going to talk about Bixby or Alexa or these other voice assistants. They're just nowhere close. My laptop has Cortana on it. I think I've used her once and she got it wrong, so I'm like, forget it. But yeah, Google Assistant is so much better. And that's one thing. That's probably the biggest thing, to be fair, that's keeping me gripped onto Google, just how powerful the voice assistant is, and the general software experience as well, which is a nice segue into the second thing that's keeping me stuck on Google on Android, and that's software. So software, I think, is a tough one to sell if you're on iOS. Like if you've had an iPhone your whole life, it's kind of hard to explain that to people, or vice versa. If you've been on Android your whole life, you haven't really experienced what iOS is like, it's kind of hard to explain that. But having, you know, had both phones and using both phones regularly, there's just so many things that Google has that I'm not necessarily better, but there's just more. I like the whole personalization aspect, you know, the whole customization, and it just feels a lot more friendly to me. You know, an example of that is, I know iOS recently added widgets, but you know, if I go to the side, I've got this whole, you know, I've got my calendar here. I've got my, is there any important information on this page? Yeah, there's a bit of important information on this page. But you know, I've got my normal page. I can go to the right, and I've got like Google, my news updates, which you can barely see because of the light. But you know, I've got it's all set up to be the way I like it to be. Notifications are all set up the way I like it to be. Everything's just set up to be the way I like it to be. All the colors. Material U is a new thing that's coming on Android 11, Android 12, which if you haven't seen yet, you know, watch the Android 12 you know, Google I/O event. I thought that was phenomenal. A lot of crazy, interesting technology that they always talk about, to be fair. But yeah, I really enjoyed it. But there's this new thing called Material U, where it's like you upload a background and it like takes out the primary colors of that background and changes your whole phone. You know, all the themes, all the aspects, all the color ratios to like match your background, which I think is crazy. Material U, things just look a lot nicer, and I really like. I'm kind of got bored of like skeuomorphism. If you don't know what I mean, it's basically like when you make something look like how it's supposed to, I guess. What's an example of that? Like notepads on iPhones. They don't have it anymore, to be fair, in Apple Notes. But in the past, it was like the actual Notepad app would look like an actual notepad. That's skeuomorphic because it's like designed to look like how it should actually look. Or another example, like you have the DJ apps that have like actual knobs and gears and discs and stuff. They don't need to be like that. It's an app. You can make it look however you want. But a skeuomorphic design principle is like trying to replicate the original idea, and that's something that I think iOS leans quite heavily on. Whereas Android has always already kind of been here and there, but Material U's kind of like thrown down the bin, and it's actually going to go a completely different direction. But I just like, you know, the whole. It just feels a lot more wholesome. It's not as quick. I appreciate how iOS is a lot more integrated. It's, you know, it feels a lot faster, and all the apps, things just feel better sometimes on iOS. Some of the features, like, you know, going back by swiping from the side, it's just a nicer feature to have. Which, to be fair, Google Pixel has now as well. But it's like there are some things that Apple have just been ahead on for a while. But it's like the general software experience, not just on the, you know, the Google phones, but also on, you know, Chrome OS, because I use Chrome a lot as my main browser, my default browser. YouTube just looks good, you know, the UI user interface. It's just so good. I'm not gonna say it's better, because I know some people do like the industrial look. Like some people I was talking to a friend about Google's new clock that they're trying to implement with Android 12. It's like, instead of just being a round clock, it's got like spikes on it, which makes it look a bit more conceptual, I guess. I kind of like it. I think it's like a nice, it's a neat look. But other people are like, you know what, just make it round. It's just a clock. Just keep it industrial, keep it simple. And yeah, again, it's not better per se. It's just I prefer it the Google way. But yeah, software is a very powerful thing. And even like, computational photography, like the pictures just look way better on Pixel, in my opinion. The phone app just works way better, in my opinion, and everything just, to me, just works better on the Google. Especially with the Pixel, where I'm getting stock Android and the actual like, the Android experience as Google want you to feel it on the Pixel, like default Android, it's just so good. And that's one thing that I can't, I'm struggling to get rid of, I'm struggling to take away. And the one, actually, I wasn't going to mention this, but it kind of came to my head just last minute. And it's backgrounds. Now, I feel like, a background, I recently did change my background. Before it was like grey, I changed it now to like this, I took a picture of the floor. I was walking up some side of a cliff, and I thought the floor looked good, so I took a picture of it. So yeah, it's a pretty decent background. But one thing that I like about this is I can put these widgets anywhere I want, or not widgets, apps, or I can just get rid of them. On iOS, on the other hand, everything starts from the top. It's always at the top. So if I wanted to have, a picture of, well, I haven't got a girlfriend, but my ex in the back, I have to put it down like halfway down the screen because the top would just cut off all of her head. And that's something that really annoys me. I know it sounds like a really minor thing, it's just a background. But happy background, happy life is kind of is the way I go by. When you change the background of your phone or your laptop, that kind of, to me at least, it really does change your mood. It is kind of like getting a new phone. But on iOS, you're really limited in that aspect. You can't really do much to it. And again, that makes sense. Like Android's always been a lot more personal, a lot more customizable versus iOS. But now that I'm getting into, especially with lockdown, you want things to like feel refreshed. And I've been changing my background every like 2 or 3 months now. Which doesn't sound like a lot, I guess, but it's more frequent than I usually do. And I just can't do it on my iPhone. There's just nothing no background looks good on an iPhone. I kept the stock one, this red iPhone SE 2020 with this red wavy background type of thing. So it's pretty cool. I'm not against it. I'm not mad at it, but it's like, it doesn't feel like my phone. It feels like a phone, whereas this Pixel just feels like my phone. So that's another small thing. But then let's go on to the final thing, and the final thing that keeps me on Android. Well, that's this isn't as big of as a decider, but it's an interesting thing to talk about nonetheless, and it's value. Now, value. People always think, oh, Android is just cheaper than iOS. Android is just cheaper. It's not as good quality. Blah blah blah. They associate all these things with price, and the objective truth is that Android isn't necessarily cheaper than iPhones. I'm sure you've all seen the Galaxy Fold. I'm sure you've all seen the Windows Flip, I think it's called. They're all these very expensive phones. The top of the range iPhone, Samsung phones. Some of the latest like OnePlus phones. Some of the before Huawei had this beef with America, like back then. Some of these phones were really pushing the boundaries. I think the latest Samsung Galaxy S20 S Pro or whatever the hell it's called, it's probably worth more than like the iPhone 12 Pro Max or whatever, I don't know what it's called as well. But it probably is worth more if you get the top spec version of like 256 gigs or whatever. Like the breaking edge, the bleeding edge really is pushing boundaries in terms of price points. So Android isn't necessarily cheaper than iOS. But I would always argue, this is something that I do in life in general, that I think everyone should always do, is forget about outright price and think more about price for value for money. The word value is more important. Price is what it costs. And value is what you're willing to pay for it, I guess, if that kind of makes sense. And I think the general value on Android is not necessarily better again, but at least it's more variance, right? There are better points throughout the ecosystem. Of course, Apple have recently kind of addressed that by putting this out. They always do, when they put out the new line of phones, they keep some of the previous ones. I think you can still buy like an iPhone 11 at like a mid-range price, and then the SE obviously at a low-end price, which is good. They've recently done that to kind of fill the void. But on Android, they've been doing it for years. There are so many Android phones at the top end, at the low end, at the mid end, at the mid to low end, at the mid to high end, throughout the whole spectrum. And even though right now, I've always kind of just wanted, the bleeding edge. I've always wanted the best. I was very close to buying a OnePlus or like a Samsung this year because I just didn't really like the Pixel 4 last year, 2 years ago. But I decided to stay on Pixel anyway, so I like the experience. But I've always been one that I love tech. I wanted to have the best possible phone I can get at any given time for my own preferences, of course. But right now, I'm starting to appreciate. I'm broke. I'm broke. I'm a student. I'm broke. Yes, as much as I love having the greatest tech, there's no need for me to have it. It's like you look at guys like N'Golo Kante with like a Samsung Galaxy S7, and I'm here with like a brand new Pixel 4. It's like, know your worth, you know your position in life. And this year, I'm gonna be very, very disappointed if I buy the latest Pixel 6, because I know that I don't really have money like that to be buying those sort of phones. Again, obviously, I mean, I have my stuff together. I do understand I can pay like monthly and stuff like that, but I have to take a look at the time. And it'll be difficult to just buy, to upgrade to another iPhone SE. Or I might just get rid of this phone entirely, to be fair, or the Pixel entirely, to be fair. But having a wider, range of devices on Android is very, very valuable to me. That's not necessarily why I'm going to stay on Android. That's not something that's like a major pull. Like, oh, but there are so many phones here. It's not a big pull, but just in my head, when the time comes to get an upgrade, when my contract expires, I don't know if I'm going to be able to, in a position to pick up the latest iPhone. And even if I could, I don't even know if I would want to. Like, why would I want to spend all this extra money if I can get the exact same experience on a cheaper phone? Because let's be honest, cheap phones are getting better. Expensive phones are also getting better, but the gap is closing. Unlike, the societal, wage gap, things like that. But we'll come to those politics in another video. So it's like, the actual value proposition and understanding that there are several other devices on Android is something that isn't, again, it's not a major pull keeping me on, but it's something that I'm wary of, and it's something that when the time comes to switch phones, where am I going to be in the spectrum, and what device is going to be available to me at individual price points? Because that's obviously very much more important than the phone itself. Isn't really as important as what you're capable of buying. As a consumer, your budget should always come first. It's not experience or number of cameras. It should always be what can I afford, and then you base it on that. So yeah, just having more Android devices is a general plus. It's maybe like a 1 plus. Yeah. Yeah, that was a horrible joke, but we're gonna end the video there anyway. So guys, it feels good to be back in front of the camera. My bad for taking so long to put out a new video. Hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and yeah, I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.